Hello, and good afternoon. This is Sunday, and the sun has entered. This is the second day of summer. So, let's see, June 22nd of the year 2025. And we have a lot of things in the world right now um, to wonder about. In the last week, Israel attacked Iran, and then yesterday, the United States got into the middle of it, and they attacked Iran. So I said, well, that's worth a shot. See if we can see anything on the horary chart. So what I'm going to be doing is also I'm testing out my new wallpaper. So right now you see background is strictly paint of different varieties, and I'm interested in this shot this way. I'm also interested in the color that this is picking up. See, I would say this jacket is kind of a teal color, and the particular image that shows me with the globe. Let's see, it's this camera isn't picking up that teal as well as this camera is. So big deal, right? But anyway, I'm interested in getting a nice color coordination along with backgrounds. So you see, I don't know if you noticed, but my wall is painted different colors here and there. So I might move the camera around from time to time to get a different effect. But anyway, in terms of substance, well, that's decorator substance. Just one thing I'm doing right now is the interior decorating. But in terms of astrological substance, I would come up with this. I forget what I said. But this, we got the moon on the midheaven and Hades. When I asked the question, I think Mars was rising. And my question was actually about what I'm going to do with my life, and what about Mousy? He's a friend of mine, from 8th grade, way back. And but what I got was a more general picture that seems to apply to me. The Mercury is in 24 of Cancer, so that my natal Mercury is in 24 of Cancer. And then we have different things in 16, Artemis in 16 of Pisces. Well, my natal Sun is in 16 of Cancer. So we have a grand trine between Artemis transiting Poseidon, transiting, 15 now. And we have Kronos transiting 15 of Cancer, and my natal Sun. And then my natal Jupiter. So, this is about me, but I see something else, though. It's this is and I'm going to look at this two ways. I'm going to look at two subjects here. One is Tulsi Gabbard versus Trump, and I predict Tulsi Gabbard will be the next president. Vance and Hegseth, there are lightweights. And even Trump is kind of a lightweight in some ways. He's a good talker, though. His analytical abilities are, hey, he made $1 billion. Who am I going to complain? But anyway, the other ones are lightweights. Tulsi Gabbard according to this chart, has got the moral high ground. Now, the other issue about moral high ground is Israel versus Iran, or Israel and the United States versus Iran. And who's got the moral high ground, see? Or in other words, who is the world more sympathetic to, the United States or Iran? Now, here's an interesting thing. Now, in the midheaven, we have the moon, which could be symbolic of the sign Cancer. And that's the sign of the United States, Cancer the crab. Its birthday, being July 4th. And the glyph here for Hades, which is actually Waldemeth in my calculating. Waldemeth, they're conjunct. Well, Waldemeth's in 22, and Moon is in 22. Waldemeth is in 24. Right, and Mercury is in 24 of Cancer, making a nice sextile to those two. And then, forming a grand trine is Kronos, authority. Artemis. Now, she's the goddess of the moon. And I haven't figured out quite what to do with Artemis. Artemis appears prominent. And I've been harvesting a bunch of Artemisia. As I go by it every morning on my scooter, I take a handful. It's growing wild in a certain place along my pathway, the pathway that I go, and so I'm not attempting to grow it. I put a few pieces in the ground. We'll see if it grows next year, but it's not growing this year. But anyway, I'm drying it out, and it has a pretty smell. It's wormwood. That's what it's called, wormwood. And vermouth. Vermouth actually means wormwood, vermouth. And wormwood is supposed to kill worms, but it has many medicinal qualities, and it has a few magical qualities. It's and they use it in absinthe as well. So if you want to go get real high, and don't overdose on vermouth, by the way. It'll get you drunk. But if you overdose on wormwood, it could kill you. So you got to be very careful with that. And I chewed a leaf or two, and it seems to have no effect at all. But who knows? But anyway, that's Artemis, Artemisia, in the dried grand trine. But anyway, so here we have the point being, the moral high ground is the opposite. Poseidon in Scorpio, opposite the moon and Lilith. And Lilith, I would say, is Israel, and the moon is the United States. So they in this chart, they have the upper, they're up on the midheaven, right? Whereas Iran would be down in the fourth house. And that would indicate that from a point of view of a moral high ground, that the United States would have that. Which personally I don't believe, but that's what the first look at the chart would indicate. I would say more in my own personal prejudices and political leanings, I would say that Iran has the moral high ground. But anyway, charts don't lie, do they? Only astrologers lie. The Poseidon is in the grand trine, though, of Artemis. Kronos. Kronos would give you credibility, and Poseidon would give you the moral the moral view. So something could be made of, this is actually a kite formation, right? And so you have your grand trine, which is shown in green here. But opposite Poseidon, you have the kite. And what's in the kite, actually? But it's also on the midheaven. That gives it more strength, because there could, with that grand trine, there could be other kites if we added more planets. But this one in particular is on the midheaven. So I figure, well, that's really the strongest indicator we have. So we have the focus. The focus is not so much on Iran as it is on the United States and Israel. And there's another midpoint. And if you look at the Venus-Uranus midpoint, that falls pretty much on the midheaven and pretty much on the moon, Hades midpoint. So we have Venus plus Uranus. Venus is love, looking good, money. Uranus is an unusual attraction. You put this all together, you could have something like a fatal attraction. Because when you have Venus Uranus, that's a person who gets infatuated, and that frequently means trouble, although it's very exciting. And so we have here, we have Venus and Uranus, very exciting romance. But with the Lilith there, as signified by the Hades glyph and the moon, you have that's what makes it fatal. In other words, it's an attraction, it's an infatuation. But with the Lilith, that makes it deadly, or fatal, or extremely intense. And I don't know. I don't want to use the word perversion. I thinking of there was a movie called Fatal Attraction, and I think that was Glenn Close, but she was she had this attraction to whoever the male lead was, and then he dropped her, so then she started to get even with him, doing very tacky and evil things to him, so she was sort of a villain, and crazy. But that was called Fatal Attraction. So you gotta watch what you want, I guess. All right. Well, you're probably tired of seeing my suit by now, so we'll sign off now. Sunday, it's 1 o'clock now. Sunday, the last Sunday of June, 2025, June 22nd.